Good afternoon. I'm very excited to be here. Thankful for the opportunity to talk about House Bill 1381, which I also had the chance to introduce along with Representative Harris and Representative Bullock from Philadelphia. Appreciate their support. Look, 1381 does what should be done. It takes a whole bunch. I ain't talking one or two recommendations. It takes a whole bunch of those recommendations and puts them into motion. So not only does it do that, but it builds off of them by taking other good ideas that we know have worked. Never about like lessening accountability, keeping accountability, and improving results for everyone in the system. That's the reality of what 1381 does. And there are some key components of it that we've not only taken recommendations from that bipartisan task force, but we've added a couple other things that we know should be talked about, like Miranda warnings that show that the average child under 17 years of age doesn't know what they mean, but yet is expected to exercise their rights. It is impossible to exercise your right if you don't know what it means. Like addressing disability in courts, because we know that if you have a disability in the school system, before you are disciplined, punished in some way, they will do a manifest determination hearing to make sure that your action was not part of your diagnosis. But we don't do that in juvenile court. We don't address the reality that a higher percentage of the children who we have in our juvenile court have a diagnosis of some type. 1381 recognizes that reality and puts that into place. But that's not all it does. Because we are trying to be sure that in this system we are recognizing every child that's there, no matter what your issues and needs that brought you in, that the goal is to make sure that the experience is right, justice is done, accountability is met, but improvement in life is achieved. And that must be the goal. Because otherwise then we are a bit lost as to what makes a juvenile system a juvenile system. So we are excited to talk about 1381. We recognize that it is a big bill, that we aren't trying to take a small bite. And that's because the work that was done by that bipartisan task force should be an alarm bell to everyone who cares about the children in Pennsylvania, especially if you come from a household of limited economic means, especially if you have a disability or mental health diagnosis, especially if you are a child who just happens to be black or brown, because the numbers will show that this system is more likely to do you harm the longer you're in than help you. Make sure that you get your life in a position of opportunity that we know you would want for your child. And that's the reality of what we're talking about. Again, it is not an issue of lessening accountability. It's an issue of improving results for every child that is in Pennsylvania across the board. I worked in juvenile justice for quite some time, and I appreciate the work and the passion on all sides of the aisle that needs to be done in the courtroom, from the district attorneys to the public defenders, and everyone in between that's there. You know, I'm tired and concerned about what isn't invested into our court system, what isn't invested into providing opportunities. We have to be sure that no child should be waiting for a mental health evaluation for months while they sit in a placement locked up. And I'm getting tired of hearing, well, there's no place for us to care for our children, so we must send them out of state, as if that somehow is going to help them. Yeah. I am tired of seeing so many children end up never getting out, and how you can be arrested at 10 and never have another offense, but you will be in that system until you can legally vote. That is too long. We must demand more accountability from our system, and this body here must fund it. Not only change the law to improve results based on the bipartisan task force, but it also must fund it so that those judges, those probation officers, those caseworkers who are struggling to do their job have the resources to be sure that no child is waiting for services. No child gets locked up because they can't find the services to keep them at home. And that should shock you. But that is the reality for too many of our kids. They are waiting for help that we should be providing right off the bat. And they're spending weeks, months, years in programs that cannot meet those needs. And by the way, on the educational needs of the children in those systems, you cannot say that you are meeting a child's constitutional rights, especially with an IEP, by placing them in a school system that cannot provide those IEP services. That is a disservice. That is an injustice. Like so much, this body here has the ability not only to make the changes, but to fund it and then get us all to where we need to be, which is a better result in quicker time, less kids in the system, more results, victim prioritization. And by the way, please, somebody stop billing kids who can't work. Stop billing kids who can't work. If you can't legally work because you're too young, stop billing them.